What's up in War Eagle War Rapport family? You got Ike Jones, and we are here midweek rapport, the Wednesday before A-Day, and we're here to talk about, of course, the quarterback competition is looming large as we approach the game. Plus, Tre Donaldson announces he's going to the transfer portal. We got to talk about all that right here on the latest edition of the midweek rapport. Happy Wednesday, happy hump day to all of you War Rapport folks out there. We appreciate you guys joining us today for the midweek report brought to you by the Rage Room in both Opelika and Birmingham. The address is 1510 2nd Avenue in Opelika or 2616 7th Avenue South in Birmingham. Whichever place you want to go and let out the frustrations of losing KD Johnson and Tre Donaldson, you can go to one of those locations and, take your favorite Yale paraphernalia and break it there at the Rage Room for ruining the Auburn basketball season. And I'm sure that they will be glad to have you come in there and break some things. So make sure that you go there. The Opelika and Birmingham Rage Rooms are there for you to be able to take your anger out. But we are here on the midweek report. Ike Jones, Mike G, in here on a great Wednesday before A-Day, talking a little Auburn football, a little Auburn basketball. If you have not shared this content, then you're already wrong. Go ahead, share the content with somebody, and so they can get in here and get involved in this conversation. But Mike G, talk to the people on other ways that they can support the War Report.
Look, go on and become a patron member. We've been out and about. Like, we were in Spokane. We were almost in Connecticut with the women, but, again, the timing of those things didn't line up. We wanted to be there, but we're everywhere. We'll be at A-Day on Saturday. You can help sponsor a lot of that in-person work by becoming a member. $5.99 a month will get you there. We got some other levels too, but listen, we love all our subscribers, whether you're a basic subscriber or a patron. We got something for everybody. You can also give the gift of the War Report by hitting that gifted membership button. You guys have been doing a great job with this program. YouTube implemented this to help more people give the gift of membership to other members who may interact with our channel at a high level, but haven't made the decision to become a member yet. So go on and hit that gifted membership button. Again, Auburn Dad, I see you. He's like the gifted membership king. You can also check us out on podcasts, every single podcast network, the Auburn Express, the Uptempo, College Loop, Just a Sec. We're putting out lots of audio only content. So if you're on your way to work or at the gym and you want to listen to more War Report content, you can catch us on podcasts, whatever you listen to podcasts on. And last but certainly not least, this show is brought to you by Manscaped. This episode is brought to you by the spring cleaning champions, Manscaped. This season, make sure to groom your carpets and the drapes with the leaders in below-the-waist grooming. Clear out that winter bush with Manscaped's Lawnmower 5.0 and watch your confidence bloom, Ike, like springtime flowers. Embrace the season and join the 10 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with our special offer. Go to manscaped.com and use code REPORT for 20% off, plus free shipping. Hey, guys, it also features dual LED spotlights, so you can do this in the dark.
I'm good on that one.
Yeah, I don't know why you need to do it in the dark, but Manscaped has thought of that.
Yeah. I mean, if you just
powers
out or something, I guess, whatever. You still want to, I don't know. But yeah, I don't like any spring flowers because mine tend to be weeds and it's getting on my nerves. But hey, listen, it is what it is. But let's get in here and talk about the conversation. The A-Day game is coming up Saturday.
It is.
And Auburn is going to be playing kind of football, right? I don't know that it's going to be actual football, right? Like it's going to be a version of football. And I talked about the weird formatting thing. If you watch last year's 8A game, going to be very similar. So you can go back and watch the morning drop to hear more about the format for the game. But interestingly enough, Coach Hugh Freeze, not the War Report, trying to talk about quarterback again. Coach Hugh Freeze talked about the quarterback position.
He did.
And he had comments on what the quarterback race looked like going into the A-Day game. I'm going to play Coach Hugh Freeze's comments, and then Mike and I are going to have a conversation about that.
Yes.
And then we're going to hear your thoughts, or we're going to read your thoughts about that. That sounds like the format of a really great show, because I know you all have some wonderful thoughts. Let's hear Coach Hugh Freeze, and then we'll get back and give some commentary.
Payton's going to be in it. It's going to, it's going to be hard to say. I mean, as excited as we are about Walker, the other three are getting the majority of the reps probably come fall camp. But I'm really excited about Walker too. So we'll see. It's going to be hard to get four. We've done a good job getting them a bunch of reps in spring. It's probably hurt Payton some because he hadn't gotten as many as. But we feel like he'll be fine come fall camp. But we really need to solidify who's really competing for the starting job, thus being the backup, with whichever way that goes by fall camp, and probably have to do that a week into fall camp, no more. And no, Payton will still be in the lead pole position come fall camp right now, based on what we've seen this spring. But I do think that the gap's not very far from him and Hank and Holden. And again, that doesn't mean Walker's not doing well. He's learning, but he's really, really talented. But going into fall camp is still, Payton will be in that number one spot.
So Coach Hugh Freeze says Payton Thorne is in pole position. This isn't really news, right?
No,
like he said before, that Payton Thorne it's his job to lose. This is a reinforcing of the same thought process. Now, what I didn't play in that clip was he later goes on to talk about how that gap isn't as narrowed, right? There's going to be a competition for quarterback one, and reps and all of that sort of thing in the fall, and whoever wins that competition will be QB1, whoever loses it will be QB2. Mike G, what were your thoughts on all of the things Coach Hugh Freeze had to say about the quarterback competition?
Well, that follow-up, that was me asking the question about clarification on the QB race. He said going into camp that it was Payton's job to lose.
He did.
I wanted fans to hear whether the other quarterbacks had closed the gap some. Honestly, I don't know if the two statements he made actually line up.
They don't.
You know what I mean? And for those of you who are just joining us, I don't know if the statement now before A-Day that he's going to be in the lead pole position going into fall camp, but the others are close. I don't know if those two things can be true. So the other part of that question that I asked, we didn't play the question there, was, is there anything that these guys can do, between now and the end of A-Day to close that gap? Maybe if he's going to be QB1 going in, it doesn't sound like there's much they can do. They're just at where they're at right now. So now what does that mean in terms of the quarterback race? Well, they've said that Payton Thorne has been the most consistent. All our sources tell us that he has been the most consistent. Mm-hmm. But where's that bar for consistency? That's the most consistent of the guys who are there. But does that equal consistent in general at the QB position? We don't know. We don't know the answer to that. So this is going to be a hot topic, I think, going in. Our comment sections have been flooded with people who are one side or the other of this.
This is QB is always a very polarizing thing. This is the weird thing, right? Like it was polarizing from the beginning with any of these quarterback competitions, and we kept thinking, all right, somebody's going to come out here and they're going to be the clear, everybody's behind, and it just has never happened. There's never been a guy that everybody's like, yep, he's the guy. We're going to roll. No, it's one side or the other. He's either terrible or give him a chance. You guys are being too hard on him.
Yeah, it will just be interesting to see. I don't necessarily have a problem with them going into the season with Payton Thorne at QB1. As a matter of fact, I don't have a problem with it at all. My whole thing is, when do you pull the plug? When have you seen enough?
Correct. Yeah.
If it's not going well. They've said some curious things in the media this camp that I'm not sure I'm in love with it. It sounds like we might need some more media training on that side. But, Sam Jackson got in front of a camera, Ike, and said that he felt like Payton's numbers weren't better because he didn't have receivers.
Correct. Which he's echoing things that a lot of other people have said in the fan base and in the media. And I mean, frankly, Coach Hugh Freeze has said it multiple times that he didn't feel as if the wide receivers did very well. It's a little bit of a bailout. I mean, he's shooting this guy some bail, right? Like that's his friend.
Sure.
So he's shooting him some bail.
But you're in that room with some of those guys.
Yeah.
So if I'm your teammate and I'm hearing that, because the receivers probably have a different version of that in their mind about why the passing game didn't go well. Now, some things can be true but not be said. And some of the things that they're saying, I don't know that it's creating a healthy teamwork environment.
Yeah, it isn't.
Yeah, Payton came out and said, I don't expect to run the ball as much because, again, same thing.
I've got better receivers this year. Right.
Yeah, and I'm like, okay. Again, it can be true, but does it need to be said? I don't think that needs to be said. So these are the kind of things that kind of affect you on game day that are hard to quantify in terms of like stats and things of that nature. You need a team that's pulling the same direction. Now, I think that a better scheme and a more consistent scheme and no tug of war between OC and head coach should produce a better passing game. But the bar is kind of on the floor when it comes to Payton in terms of his stats last year. And no matter why you think it's on the floor, it just has to get better. Correct. So are they taking steps this spring to make that better?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that, the biggest thing for this team and for Payton Thorne is to figure out. The word that they keep using is he's been the most consistent, right? And the debate that you and I are not having amongst one another, we're not debating each other on it, but are introducing the conversation into this debate or a point into this debate is, what does that consistency look like? Because you can be consistently bad, right? Like you can be consistently mediocre. You can be consistently just okay. And the question is he's being the most consistent, so he's like got the least variation where it's like really, really bad, and then sometimes it's really, really good. He's more like in the middle, but that's not the same thing as saying he's been good.
Yeah. Look, there are other ways I think that you're going to have to look at this if you're Hugh Freeze, because the three guys that you have behind him don't have a lot of game day experience.
Right.
So at some point, you're going to have to take a step of faith, and will Hugh Freeze, have the cojones to say, you know what? I'm going to go with a total unknown here. They did it at the end of the bowl game, but, maybe he thought the game was out of reach. It's like, why not give these guys a shot? It's the last game of the season. Hank Brown, I think, is one of the few quarterbacks we've seen at Auburn in the last 10 years to step in, Ike, and make the most out of just a few opportunities. Right? Like, think about it. His first 9 throws in a college game.
Yeah.
And he went 7 for 9 for 132. Incredible. And maybe Hank Brown's a gamer. He certainly hasn't been getting glowing reports in camp. Really nobody has.
Yeah.
At the QB position. We hear Walker is swimming. Holden is maybe inconsistent. Hank is inconsistent. Payton is the most consistent. But if the other 3 are a 4 out of 10 in terms of consistency, and Thorne is a 5 out of 10. Well, he's the most consistent.
Right.
But that's not where you want the bar to be for your season.
Correct.
And when we say consistency, I think that 10-point scale works, right? Because if he's a 6 out of 10, he's 60%. Ish, right? And that's about where he was. We got some stats on here. Should we look at the stats on him from last season?
Yeah, we can take a look at Payton Thorne's stats here. Payton Thorne is a guy who, listen, I mean, it's not a secret what his numbers were last season, but they weren't great, right? They weren't great numbers. And here's the thing I want people to stop doing.
Okay.
I would personally love if people stopped trying to blame the wide receivers for it all. Like, they own a portion of it. They 100% own a portion of this. It wasn't a great wide receiver core, particularly the outside. Listen, Sam Jackson didn't tell a lie. The outside receivers weren't very good for Auburn last year.
That's a fact. That's a fact.
And it got progressively worse when they took. I'm going to be Mike G here for a second. When they took Jay Fair off of the field, it got progressively worse for that wide receiver room in as far as being able to produce on a consistent basis.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't personally think that it's fair to lump what Payton Thorne didn't do last year on the wide receivers completely. As if the coaches didn't signal to you, hey, we don't think that we can throw the ball, so we're just going to run it with our quarterback more. That's got a portion of that has to do with Payton Thorne.
Well, yeah, with the quarterback, yeah,
right. And so anyway, listen, this isn't beat up on Payton Thorne time. But you know the numbers are what they are. Let's take a look at Payton
Well,
Thorne's
you got to start there, to have a basis for a conversation about where it needs to be for the season. Right. If he's going to be your starter for all of 2023, I don't think anybody expects Auburn to win a national championship next year, but you certainly got to move the passing game the right direction.
Yeah. So last year, you know, again, the numbers are what they are. Just reading the numbers, not reading anything into them. 61.1%. It's not good. That's just, I mean, there's no two ways to slice that. It's not good. 1755 on yardage. Not good. Average per completion, decent. Touchdown to interception ratio, not good. You know, rush attempts and rush yards, 515 is actually an admirable number. Like I'd take that from Payton Thorne again this season, and I think that'd be a good number if the number of your passing yards is going to go up significantly. Rushing touchdowns, sacks, like took a lot of sacks last year. Average rushing yards, 3.8. Rushing touchdowns, 3 total on the season. I mean, again, the numbers were okay. But for the most part, not good. And we have a lot of things that need to get worked on. The hope here is that the new offense with Coach Freeze is going to be something that's going to revolutionize the ability of Payton Thorne and with improved play from those outside receivers, right? Like, again, not absolving the receivers. The receivers 100% need to play better as a unit. But Payton Thorne's got to own a portion of this, and his responsibility is to figure out how within whatever the system is going to be the best player he can be. And something you've been fond of saying, Mike, is he needs to be the guy as the senior in that room, elevating the play of the offense, not other people bringing his play up at the wide receiver position.
Yeah, I just want to point out, hold on, can we put the stats back up?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I just want people to be able to look at it. So when I think about these numbers, I think about another quarterback. What's another quarterback Auburn had that was around low 60s, you know, passing on the season going into next season? Well, in Auburn's national title year, Nick Marshall was 59.4% on the season. In 2013, you know, Thorne had 265 attempts here. Marshall had 239 and only 142 completions, right? But he threw for 14 touchdowns, 2 less than Thorne here, but only 6 interceptions. Now, where Marshall was a difference maker, obviously was with his legs. That year, he had 172 rush attempts. You see here, Thorne had 134. And 1,068 yards. So he doubles them up in yards here at 6.21 yards per carry and 12 touchdowns on the ground. So, again, you got 19 total touchdowns from Thorne. Even though Marshall was a 60% passer, you know, he produced 26 touchdowns on the ground and through the air. And I think that, you know, when you look at the other stat, where is it? Here's the other thing that's glaring here. In the passing game, although Marshall took less attempts and completed less passes and had a lesser percentage by 2%, his average yards per throw was 18.4. Nick Marshall could push the ball down the field.
Yeah.
You know, Thorne is average at 6.6 yards per throw is definitely not going to get it. Now, again, some of that is on the receivers 100%. Like, you drop deep balls, it's going to hurt this yards per throw average for him. But also when you don't throw it well, like we saw in the bowl game, that deep post to Caleb Purton, open. It was open.
Right.
He had a step. You missed it, and that wasn't probably a touchdown if you hit that pass. Hank Brown came in, made the same throw. I think that's where we got to think about Thorne here this year. Can he make that throw more consistently? Give these guys a chance. And if you're doing that and they're just dropping it, I think everybody will see it for what it is. Right. So it's going to be interesting going into the season here. Cam Coleman's going to play, and he's going to help these numbers, I think, 7 to 10%. Right. Like, and not in completion percentage. Like, he's not going to be good to push him to 70%. But I mean, 7 to 10% more completions. Right. Over, whatever, another 16 completions probably he might be good for.
Yeah,
on the season, right? Just him alone. Thorne expects to not, and this is words from his own mouth, he expects to not have to rush the ball as much. 134 rush attempts is actually quite a bit. I think that's a lot for him. So
I mean, it's way more than I expected. I did not think Payton Thorne was going to be running the ball that much coming into the season.
Yeah. So, like I said, I get why he's the leader in the clubhouse, and he's been in college. This is going to be his 4th year as a starter. I think 6th year in college overall. And he should be the leader. Underrated, I think, stat here. We could pull this graphic down. Like, just kind of a note, right? Like, in terms of preparing for the season and trying to get ahead of the game and learning the new terminology and doing all this stuff, one of the advantages that Payton has, and I think that every graduate has, is that his class load is lighter than the other 3 in the room by far. I wouldn't be surprised if Thorne practically spends his whole day at the athletic department or in the training facility. Yeah.
Listen, him being further ahead of everyone else, let's just take the years of experience he has as a starting quarterback out of the conversation. If they were all starting from zero knowledge, zero starting experience, and Payton Thorne was coming in there with the amount of hours he has available to get prepared for practice, there's no reason he shouldn't be winning this race just off of that alone.
Yeah. I mean, look, because that's what he should do. That's what I would do if I were him.
Yeah, 100%.
So I'm trying to win a quarterback race, and you guys got to go take advanced calculus. And I'm a graduate student, and I'm taking, what was that class we used to take? Dr. James Brown, organic gardening. Yeah. When you needed an A, Dr. James Brown was there for you. Yeah, I'm going to be in there all the time, training, recovering, looking at film, again, studying the playbook. And there's no way you're going to beat me out because I have more time to beat you than you have time to beat me.
Yeah.
I like that. And then going into his senior season, if there's a chance that he's going to improve, this should be a huge advantage for him. Now, mind you, remember, Thorne came in after spring last year. And so that probably hindered him a little with the tug of war that was going on. But now that they simplified I don't want to say simplified because I don't know that it's been simplified, but they've gone back to terminology that Freeze is comfortable with, Ike. They've gone back to terminology he's comfortable with, and he's had a whole spring to kind of absorb that, get used to the new guys. And Thorne to Cam Coleman is something that we might hear quite a bit next year. So, like I said, if there's hope, I think for fans that Thorne is going to take the next step. There are some favorable things for him that are happening here, where he can spend more time on football this year than he had last year, and than he would have if he were still an undergraduate student. Because I'm telling you right now, Hank Brown, Holden Gerner, and Walker White are all averaging probably 15 to 20 hour class loads right now.
Right.
Thorne probably doesn't have 10.
No, I'd be shocked if Thorne is even,
double digit hours, right, as a graduate student. So that's a good thing. That might end up being a good thing for Auburn football, that he has that time available if he's going to be the leader going into camp. And then he can do, again, what you pointed out, I've been saying, step up as a leader, as the most experienced guy, to elevate the guys around him. to be that extra coach on the field, to coach guys, make sure they are where they're supposed to be.
Yeah.
Before each play. Again, this could be a net positive for Auburn if I'm trying to see the glass half full side of this.
Let me say this. Because of course, we always get labeled as the hater of whoever it is that we say anything negative about. It doesn't matter how many good things we say about the person. If I say anything negative, now all of a sudden I hate this person. Let me say this definitively. The hope of every Auburn fan is that you get the Payton Thorne that was the best version of him and not year one Auburn version of him.
11-2 Payton Thorne.
There is a version of Payton Thorne that exists out there on tape in Power 5 as a starting quarterback in which he quarterbacks a team to only 2 losses on the season. So it is for people who think that he is only as good as his worst season and is not capable of at least reaching close to what he's been at his best, that's unfair.
Yeah.
The fairness of the conversation around Payton Thorne is you've seen a really good season from him. Not greatness, not Heisman caliber, but really good. Serviceable. A guy that you would take on your team, and there's a reason why Coach Hugh Freeze liked what he saw in him when he came in. Even his worst season, season 2 at Michigan State, you'd take that guy over last year's Payton Thorne as far as the numbers are concerned, right?
Yeah.
So there is a version of Payton Thorne that exists out there that you take as an Auburn fan. But last year was unacceptable. And to blame Auburn for that, as if his attempts weren't down, he wasn't running the ball more, he didn't like everything. Payton's got to own a portion of that, right? And so you just need Payton Thorne. We don't need the wide receivers to get better in order for Payton Thorne to be better. You need Payton Thorne to be better in order for Payton Thorne to be better. The offensive play calling 100% could be better. The continuity, all of those things, wide receiver, yes, but you need Payton Thorne to be better. And there's a version of Payton Thorne that can be better, that is absent of all of this other stuff that people keep trying to pile onto the conversation. And let's squarely focus the conversation on that and just say, hey, do better, guy. That's fair.
Yeah, I agree. Again, for reference here, because we're talking about numbers, I just want to talk about the yards per average, the average yards per attempt, 6.6, right? That was good in the SEC last year. Holy crap. For 16th out of all quarterbacks in the SEC, right? So the yards per attempt is, when you look at Marshall's numbers, again, only 59% on the season, but when he threw the ball, if it was caught, it was a first down. So they were still moving the ball because on average, he was pushing the ball like 18 to 20 yards down the field.
Yeah.
Right. And I think if they can find that part, then it might be a good thing. The other thing, you talked about that version of Payton Thorne that Auburn is looking for. Well, that 2021 season, again, the needle didn't move in terms of completion percentage, 60.4%. But it produced 3,240 yards through the air. He had 130 more attempts on the season at about 390. So he went from 260-ish to 390 in terms of attempts, which is closer to what Hugh Freeze quarterbacks usually do. They throw the ball close to 400 times a year. Do they have it in them? Does Auburn have the system to let it fly almost 400 times this season? I think if you can do that, it's going to go really great or it's going to go really wrong. So if Freeze gets into, I'd say, safe mode, then you're going to see those attempts not rise very much.
Right.
And they're going to run the ball and they're just going to try to get through the season. But if they let them sling it 30 times a game, you got a shot.
Yeah.
Right? At 12 games, that's like what? 360 attempts on the season.
Yeah. I mean,
throwing the bowl game, and then you get pretty close to, 400.
The numbers are pretty easy to figure out how to get there. The question, and again, there's a larger conversation around the offense's ability to stay on the field and all that sort of thing that needs to be had to help make that happen. But the brass tacks of it is he needs to throw the ball more in order for him to get to those numbers. You can't have the number of attempts he had unless his completion percentage is going to be almost flawless.
Or he's going to add 1,000 yards on the ground.
Yeah,
right?
which is, I think, an
Which
unreasonable
is
expectation of Payton
for
Thorne.
him. Yeah, I think that's unreasonable. So yeah, we'll see where it goes. I'm not as pessimistic about this as I was 3 weeks ago, but I still have concerns.
Oh, it's still concerning.
I
Yeah.
still have concerns about that passing game, and part of the thing that I have here is if the young receivers struggle, I do not want fans to start the "he's a bust" campaign thing.
Right.
On these kids, right? Like, Cam Coleman, he's so much of a beast. They're not really considering the fact that he was struggling picking it up for the first 10 practices. That's how good Cam Coleman is as a player.
Yeah, he's just physically gifted. So he's going to put it together eventually, but his talent is just basically covering up for the fact that he doesn't really know everything yet. He's just out there.
He's that good. He's pretty much the only freshman that's getting that pass. The rest of them are spending a lot of time trying to catch up here. Lots of hype from some people about Bryce Cain. Listen, Bryce Cain is going to be a really good receiver at this level. Is he going to be making an impact next year? I don't think so.
Not if, there's a long time between now and the fall, so he could, he could start to put it together between now and then. But yeah, if they had to suit him up today, he wouldn't be ready.
Yeah, I don't know if he plays next year.
Right.
Right. So that's where I'm at about this. I don't want fans to jump on the Coleman's a bust train the first time he goes out there and he has a couple drops. Go back and look at the leading receivers in college football last year, right? Malik Neighbors led college football. He was probably the best receiver in the country, if you ask me. And the fact that he did not win best receiver, what's the award called?
Bolitnikoff.
There's a Bolitnikoff? Okay, yeah. For some reason I thought that was like the kickers award. But 89 receptions for 1,500 yards, 17.6 yards average, 14 TDs. Malik Neighbors. He dropped the ball a lot and in high-pressure situations. I don't want people to hear me. Malik Neighbors had multiple drops in some games.
Yeah.
But they threw the ball at a high enough clip and he got enough targets that it was easy to forget the ones he drops because he was getting a lot of opportunities to catch balls. And I think if you give these receivers more opportunities, their drops don't feel as bad. Or maybe they'll feel worse if they are truly the problem.
Right.
But the amount of attempts that they got in what I would say was definitely a broken passing game that hurt both quarterback and receiver, that certainly hurt those averages quite a bit. So, we're not going to, the first time, I'm telling you right now, if you're in the chat, if you dare come to our chat and say Cam Coleman is a bust, you're muted for 5 minutes.
Right.
I'm muting anybody who tries to tell me Cam Coleman's a bust. This kid is not a bust. And the only way he doesn't leave here with every receiving record ever in Auburn history is because Auburn fails him.
Yeah.
That's
because he's too talented for it to be otherwise.
Yeah, man. This has got to be the place where 5 stars thrive and not the place where 5 stars come to die. And, too often in Auburn's history, it's been the latter, Ike.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. I want to get into the conversation because there's a lot of commentary going on here in the chat. We're going to take a break, pay some bills really quickly, but we're going to come back and we are going to get into your comments. This is the Midweek Rapport.
This edition of the War Report is brought to you by our generous sponsors. The Opelika Rage Room in Opelika, Alabama. The Rage Room is a place where anger and stress find their ultimate release. Call or text 334-777-6688 to set up a session today or check them out online at opelikaRageRoom.com. Golden's Cast Iron. Whether you work out, grill out, or chill out, you deserve the best life possible, and Golden's Cast Iron is here to provide the tools to help you do it. Check them out at goldenscastiron.com.
Love our friends over at Golden's, guys. Please go give them a shout. goldenscastiron.com. They got some great stuff over there. Also, what's great is you becoming a patron. We got 3 levels here. For $3.99, $3.99, and $5.99. We love that $5.99 level. That helps us continue to do a lot of the work that we do here at the War Report. A lot of you guys are patron members. If you're in the chat right now, you don't have a green name, it's because you're not a patron. So just become one. Just do it. You won't even feel the credit card hit every month. $6, right? That's like one tank of gas in this economy. But please become a patron. Help keep the work that we're doing here going at a high level. You can also gift a membership. I see Auburn Dad coming through with gifted memberships already, guys. I challenge 3 more of you to do this before the end of the broadcast. Give the gift of the War Report. Ike does a lot of stuff behind the paywall for you guys, film reviews and such. So help us keep that work going as well. You can also check us out on the War Report Podcast Network. Every podcast network, we are there. The Auburn Express, Uptempo, College Loop, and Just a Sec bringing you guys great audio-only content. Please go support us over there. Your listens there matter a lot. So that is a forum that we want to continue to grow in. And last but not least, our show sponsor, the Opelika Rage Room. Look, man, Tre's gone. Others might be gone. Janai might be gone. You may have some rage to get out. The Rage Room, Opelika, and Birmingham is here to help you with that. So go check them out at 1510 2nd Avenue in Opelika. Also, you can check them out in Birmingham at 2616 7th Avenue South down there. I've been to both locations, and I can tell you, it's therapeutic no matter what city you're in. So, Opelika Rage Room, doing the Lord's work, helping people break windshields and not necks, and that's the way we like it.
Or at least not your own stuff, right? Like, break somebody else's stuff. It's here's the thing: it's a lot less expensive to go pay some money at the Rage Room and break that stuff than have to replace your TV.
Yeah, right. True. Or you know what? They have windshields there.
Yeah.
You could go break a windshield. I mean, if you break your own windshield, it's going to cost you like $300.
Way more money.
Break their windshield for like $30.
Yeah, it's economical. It's economical. I know that here's what should happen. Here's what should happen, and we know the owner of the Rage Room, so maybe we can make it happen.
Yeah, for sure.
We should have a Rage Room tailgate party where we watch like an away game, like out in the parking lot. That way, you can just go directly into the Rage Room after the game and break stuff if you get mad, as opposed to, because it's proximity that's the problem, right? Like you're in your house and the game is going on and you just immediately want to throw something, break something. So you need to be right there by the Rage Room when the things happen, and then you can just go inside and break something and you'll be fine. So we're going to figure out a way to do like a mobile rage party or something. Like I'm going to talk to
mobile rage party. I like that. That. I challenge 25 of you to show up to our mobile rage.
We're going to figure that out this season.
For
some away game, we're going to have a mobile rage party where we're going to be able to, at halftime, just break a bunch of stuff if it's not going, or in celebration. Listen, you can break stuff and be happy. So, anyway. All right, let's get over here into the comment section. For those of you new to this, we are going to start things off with our super chats. Auburn Dad's going to get us kicked off. He says, War Damn Eagle just wanted to say, can't wait to be at A-Day. I hope I get to run into y'all there. We will definitely be present, myself and Mike G. So if you do see us, make sure you come and say hello. Auburn Dad, definitely hope we get a chance to run into you as well. Our guy Otis Smith jumps in and says, I'll be the first to say it, go Iowa. I guess he's talking about the women's basketball team here, laughing out loud, War Damn Eagle. I don't care anything about that game, but yeah, sure, whatever.
Paige Beckers is the best player left in this tournament. Paige Beckers, I'm telling you, and she's going to prove it. She's going to prove it.
I think Paige Beckers is probably the best overall. Like, Caitlin Clark is still the most impactful player left in this tournament because
she has to be or they'll lose. Like if she doesn't 100%, they lose to LSU.
Right. Iowa is going to go as Caitlin Clark goes, right? Like if she's not having a good game or they find a way. I got so much I could say about that game. This isn't about that, but God, that was Kim Mulkey failed LSU in that game.
Oh yeah, for 100%. But I'm telling you, like I would put good money that Paige Beckers has a higher percentage chance of dropping 28 and 12 on Iowa than Caitlin Clark has of putting up another 40-point game.
Gino Auriemma is not going to just sit there and watch Caitlin Clark.
Yeah. He will literally give her the Nancy Kerrigan treatment before.
I'm not a big. Let me be clear before I say this. I've never been a big Kim Mulkey fan, but I've always thought she has a good basketball mind. This was one of the laziest coaching performances I think I have ever watched on that level of a stage, where she just sat on her hands and watched her team get cooked for
Yeah,
3
she
quarters.
did. She did.
I was just like, yo, what are you doing, bro?
And,
Like, this
I'm
is
sorry,
stupid.
Putting Haley Van Lith on Caitlin Clark was, to me, it was just like, man, you have to beat Caitlin Clark by committee. You got to run multiple defenders on her. You got, you know what I mean?
It was terrible, man.
Yeah,
I didn't understand anything about it. Listen, I think Haley Van Lith is actually I don't want to talk about this game too much.
Okay, all right, yeah.
We'll figure out another time.
We like women's sports over here.
Listen, I love basketball, man.
Yeah.
I can't help it. I know I said I wasn't gonna watch basketball no more after Auburn got out of, and then I ended up watching again because I love basketball. Football, I could just ignore. I love football enough to talk Auburn football, but once my team is done, I don't care anything about any of the rest of you guys.
That's
but
right.
Auburn basketball, basketball, I just love it too much. I can't help it. Our guy War Eagle says, a War Damn Eagle fan just coming in, dropping a little War Eagle on everybody. Appreciate you jumping in here, JC, man. Always good to see you in the chat. Brad Browning jumps in and says, can we at least admit that there was a QB competition this spring? Before you jump in here, Mike, I'm going to say, no, I cannot admit that. I can admit there was a QB2 competition.
Yeah, there's definitely a competition going on between Hank Brown and Holden Gardner.
Yeah, but
100%.
No, we can't admit that.
Yeah,
let me not speak for anybody else. I can't admit that.
Yeah, after the bowl game, Hugh Freeze said it would be wide open. Yeah. And then before spring practice started, he said it was Payton's job to lose.
Correct.
And then we're not even done with spring practice. He's saying he's going to be one going into fall camp.
Yeah.
I don't know that there was a competition. I mean, he told us before camp started what he felt, and that's before they had done a practice. So
right.
I just don't know. I don't think that these guys are going to have what it takes for this coach to overcome Payton's experience on the field before the start of the season. All right. If Payton Thorne's going to lose his job, he's going to have to lose it in season simply. Yeah. Like, he's not going to do it before the season.
Yeah. I don't see it happening, man. And no, that there was no competition this spring not for QB1. For QB2, yes. There's a fierce competition for the backup spot.
Yeah, for sure.
Ant Robinson says, so why can't we talk about the most interesting battle? The defense could be the number 1 in the SEC.
I don't know.
So let me say this. I talk about all of the position groups. I've done morning drops on all of this stuff. If it were truly the most interesting battle, tell me why the views are so much more lopsided when we talk about quarterback's always going to be the most interesting battle that exists. So
yeah, I'm worried here, Ant, about the D-line.
Yeah, there's some concerns there.
There's some concerns there, right? And so we'll see. Maybe
from a depth perspective, they've got talent. I just don't think we're deep enough right now.
Yeah, let's see if the scheme helps elevate these guys as well. Like, it's something about putting guys in the right positions and calling the right plays that turns average players into stars or young guys into stars early. So I'll be interested to see what DJ Durkin cooks up, man. Him and Charles Kelly. Like, let's just see what these guys have in the bag. I'm open to it. Last year, I thought they outperformed every expectation any fan had for what they could do, given how little offense was produced and how long they had to be on the field. So, if they pitch 6 games again where they hold an opponent to less than 2 scores, man, to me that would be spectacular, even given what they lost.
Yeah. Brad Browning rebutting, saying, so Coach Hugh Freeze just gave the position to Payton Thorne without any analyzing. If that's the case, a $6 million a year coach needs to go ahead and get fired now. So let me say this. You can rewind. It's a YouTube video. I didn't say that. What I did say was that Payton Thorne came into the competition at a true competition. So let's just.
They didn't all start from zero.
Any race that exists, everyone is supposed to start from the same starting point.
Yes.
So
do that. Yeah.
If you give someone first position, which is the pole position, what he said Payton Thorne is in, before the race starts, then everybody else has to do more work to be able to catch up. Now, in racing, you earn the pole position, right? There's something that happens that allows you to earn a pole position in that situation, which gives you an advantage to start it. And everybody else has to make up that distance. A true quarterback competition would be more like a foot race, where everybody starts from the
100-meter
same
dash.
starting line,
Yeah.
and whoever gets to the end and wins. There is no advantage given at the beginning. So that's not what happened in this scenario, and that's not an opinion I have. That is what Coach Hugh Freeze said out of his own mouth.
Yeah.
Starting camp, before a single practice happened, Payton Thorne, it's his job to lose. You put him in the starting seat before they started the competition. So no, that's not a fair competition. Now, did he do any analysis to keep him there? Absolutely. Did Payton Thorne have every advantage to be able to win that? 100%. Does that mean I disagree with his decision? Not at all. I think Payton Thorne has done enough to keep the starting position. I don't think someone should be starting over him as of today. But the question was, do I think it was a fair QB competition? No, I still don't.
Yeah. Yeah. And look, man, and that's fine as long as you're right.
Or willing to pivot when you're wrong, right?
Correct.
And it's always been the thing I said.
Yeah, I think you got to be right, and it's got to produce. It can't be bottom of the league. Look, man, even if Thorne was a middle of the pack SEC guy, this is not. We're not even sitting here talking about this, right? Like if he was like 6th or 7th in the league in passing, for all the guys who started like 50% of their team's games, this is not a conversation. It's just, the scheme has to help them and the receivers have to do better. And that's it in the discussion. Right. But bottom of the league, that's a little bit of everybody crap in the bed. Thorne can only be responsible for what he can control, just like Freeze has to be responsible for his part, and the receivers have to do their part, and the line has to do their part. Right. All of it needs to get better. I'm just saying, when you evaluate Thorne, like all of that wasn't on everybody else. Some of that was on him. So, and you can evaluate that apart from the other factors.
Yeah.
Right. So.
All right. Let's see here. Last one. Walker show comes in. Does this mean that Payton has gotten better, or the other QBs aren't that good, except Walker because he's a freshman?
Yeah, that is the question I think that everybody has. Does it mean that Payton's gotten better, or are the other guys just not that good? So default. We'll find out. We'll find out come the season. Right.
We will definitely find out, and I'm looking forward to seeing what happens there. Again, I endorse whoever Coach Hugh Freeze endorses. I have no choice but to say, hey, listen, you think he's the best guy? Great, roll him out there. Let's see what happens. My only thing is, if it doesn't go well, are you willing to go in a different direction? And that's what was yet to be seen. But all right, let's get off of that. There's so much more, and we can talk about quarterback from now until the first game of the season. And we will definitely talk about this more as things progress, and we'll have more to say about this after the A-Day game. But let's pivot over here and go to basketball, because news coming out today that a lot of Auburn fans were surprised by, and I don't think that anybody is necessarily happy about it, but Tre Donaldson announced that he has intents of going to the transfer portal coming off of his sophomore season at Auburn University.
Yeah.
Mike G, thoughts on Tre Donaldson?
I was completely floored by this.
Yeah.
When the alert came across my phone, this was not something I had anticipated. Honestly, based on the things we've been told, I expected Aiden to hit the portal. I expected that announcement.
Yeah.
But Tre, no, I just didn't expect it. Look, I think Tre Donaldson has been good for Auburn. I think that he outperformed a lot of expectations that fans had for him in a lot of ways near the end of last season. I think he proved that he can shoot. Tre Donaldson can hit big-time shots when you need them, right? He can facilitate, and, he from the little bit of time I spent around him, he just seemed like a great team guy.
Yeah.
So, he's going to give you his all. He's going to have fun. He's going to encourage his teammates. Tre Donaldson is a great basketball player. But I also believe, Isaac, that the results of the tournament left a really sour taste in a lot of people's mouth.
For sure.
Coaching staff and players and fans alike. When I tell you that was the worst post-game press conference I've ever sat in since we started doing this. You got to do your job, but I was miserable trying to ask Bruce Pearl a question in that press conference. Because what do you ask him other than what happened out there. Well, we all saw it. But I got to ask him, why couldn't Auburn hit free throws down the stretch? Why did your 5-star point guard not score a single point in that game?
Yeah, and
Not
he missed
one
some
bucket.
buddies. He missed some really easy layups. In that
Hear me
game.
out. One
Tough.
bucket from him might win that game for you. You lost 78,
At least you go to
76.
OT.
Yeah. It's tough. How do you explain, even without Chad Baker-Mazara, because him getting the flagrant 2 was an absolute travesty to all basketball. You know what? I don't think another flagrant 2 was called the entirety of the rest of the tournament after that.
And there were definitely some egregious situations out there.
The Tennessee threw a guy to the ground, literally WWE style. But none of those refs made it through to the Sweet 16. Not a single rep that repped Auburn Yale made it through to the Sweet 16. And they're great. For those of you who don't know, they're graded. Mm-hmm. They go back and they review it. It's the same in the NFL. Like the refs with the highest grades throughout the season are the ones that have the best chance of reffing the Super Bowl. And when you're on the biggest stage, you can't let a ref that's had a questionable history of calls make it through, because then your referees become the story when they mess it up and the eyes of the nation are on it, right? If you love college basketball, you're following your team throughout the season. But when the Final Four gets here, the casuals are watching. People who don't even watch basketball are watching. You don't want your refs to be the story. Like, I think there was just so much at the end of the season that some emotional decisions, I'm sure, are being made right now by some guys in that locker room.
Yeah, for sure.
If they believe in their own talent, maybe they feel like they've gone as far as they can go in the system. Bruce Pearl promised the greatest balance of minutes of any team he's ever coached in the preseason. That's what he said to me when I asked him the question. He said, this will be the greatest balance of minutes of any team I've ever coached. He delivered. It was. It absolutely was the greatest balance of minutes. If you want the ball in your hands, maybe you don't like that style of basketball. Right?
Yeah.
If you want to be the guy.
Yeah, 30 minutes a game and put up, that's that. And again, my thought process, I and I said this many times, of the two, I thought Aiden was the more likely to transfer. Not because I didn't think Aiden's a good player. I didn't want him at Auburn. I really want Aiden to stay at Auburn because I think that he's a phenomenal talent.
Me too.
I thought that Aiden might want to go somewhere where he could shoot the ball more.
Yeah. Just go straight, sniper mode.
Yeah,
it's hard to do.
Be Steph Curry out there or Trey Young out there, right? Like, just have the ball in his hand, high usage guy, and get more opportunity. And that's just not what Auburn is.
Well,
he's not in that position for this team, I should say.
I just think Janai Broom's too good, right, to not run at least some large percentage of your offense through him.
Honestly, should have done it more, but
Yeah, right. And so, if Trey wants that role, he would have just had to have shot a lot better. And I'm sure Bruce Pearl is going to gravitate to whatever works. In the non-con, he was averaging like 9 to 15 shots a game. In SEC play, Aiden only had 2 games with double-digit attempts. 2 games with double-digit attempts, all of conference play. So they, whether you're arguing that they took the ball out of his hands or he just didn't take the shots when they were there, something was going on there. And only Bruce Pearl and Aiden probably know. But I know that Bruce Pearl is a damn good coach, and I know that Aiden Holloway is a damn good basketball player. Sometimes, visions don't align, and you got to go play someplace where you're on the same page with your head coach about the vision and the plan for your talent. If you're not, it may not work, right? And you talk to these head coaches, about the vision that they have for their players, and sometimes it's a really hard thing for a player to submit to the coach's vision for what they can do. If a coach tells a kid, Ike, you're a spot up shooter, that's where you thrive. And you think, no, I'm Paige Beckers. I got every shot in my bag. And the coach says, no, you're not. Here's how you can help this team. Knock down 3 to 4 open shots a game from 3, and we're good. Because we have other people who could do that role, and they may be able to do it better than you. Like, It's just hard. I think that all these kids have tough decisions when it comes to that. Like, you got to go someplace where the coach sees eye to eye with you, or
Right.
you have to submit to their vision completely and trust that it's the right path. When a kid can no longer trust Isaac that the coach's vision for them or plan or development plan for them is going to take them where they need to go, they're probably going to find someplace else to play. And I think that that's most likely what's happening here with some of these kids who are hitting the portal. Right?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I know the situation with KD was more so about, he knew his usage was going to go down with the way that Coach Pearl.
Pettiford coming in and like
Coach Pearl already said they're going to use Pettiford as a scorer, right? And so that means the role that KD has as this, off the bench igniter, because likely Pettiford's going to come off of the bench because you're going to have Denver Jones back as your scoring guard out there. And so unless you want to move Denver to the 3, which makes you a lot smaller in your starting lineup, then Pettiford's coming off the bench, which means KD's minutes have to go down some because you can't move KD to the point, right? And so now you've got a situation where he's got to split minutes with 3 guys, and Denver's going to go out there and he's going to light it up. And if Pettiford is anything close to what he's been in high school, he's going to come out there and light it up. So where's the minutes for KD coming in that scenario unless you significantly limit Pettiford in his freshman season? So handwriting on the wall for KD, understood that 100%.
Yeah.
The Tre Donaldson one, a little bit more surprising. Though Tre, quote-unquote, lost his starting position halfway through the season, I think fans get more caught up in who's starting and who's not than necessary in a Coach Pearl situation because of the balance of minutes. Mm-hmm. I think it's more telling who he puts the ball as a point guard at the end of games than it is who he starts.
Correct.
Starting the games, I think, for Coach Pearl is more so about matchups and, what
Tre Donaldson was in at the end of that Yale game.
Yeah.
Right. He had a chance to hit a big 3 that would have put Auburn in the lead or tied it.
Had a chance to get a layup there close to the end of it. Yeah, we can pull up the
we got some stats. We got some stats here on Tre. These are his career stats. 44% from the field. 44%. 4.7 points per game. That's his average over, his 2 seasons at Auburn. 41% from 3 is damn good. Right. 70% free throw shooter, 2.6 assists. Here's the kicker. 15.1 minutes per game average. I think that kids feel like if this number is too low, it limits all the other numbers because you're just on the court less. Less opportunities for me to be the type of player that I want to be. I thought last season, mid to the end of last season, Tre Donaldson proved that he could shoot the ball. A lot of people, I don't think they believed in his ability to shoot the ball until mid last season. And then he started going on these runs of knocking down 3s and getting to the basket. He added some to his offensive game, right? That, not really low post, but you know what I mean? Like mid from the key kind of deal. Like he had some moves down there this year. Tre Donaldson is what you expect out of players. It was clear this offseason he worked on his offensive game. He added some shots to his repertoire, and he was a more effective scorer in 2023 than he was in 2022. Obviously you don't expect him to be a rebounder. I didn't put it on here, but Tre Donaldson averaged less than 1 turnover per game his career at Auburn. He
took care of the basketball. He was good with making sure he was facilitating. He's a point guard. Mm-hmm. He is the definition of what you want as a guy getting the team involved.
Now, if you increase his shot attempts, does that 44.7% field goal percentage hold? If it does, you didn't give him the basketball enough. You don't let him shoot enough. Because if you have a guy like that that's going to shoot 44, essentially it's 50-50 from the field, he's going to put some points in for you. And, only Tre knows this, but I think it comes down to that 15.1 minutes per game. Maybe Tre thinks that should be closer to 20 to 25. It's a 40-minute basketball game. And if you're trying to work through your stuff and get your game going, 15 minutes may not be enough for you. I don't know, man. Like I said, this is hard. This is hard for me because he was not the same player in year one that he was in year two. And if he were going to return, I expected him to be an exponentially better player in year three. I think his improvement was clear year over year, and we have nothing to suggest that he wouldn't have been even better in year three. But if you at the time, like if you think that Aiden's coming back and he started like half the games already, maybe you're just thinking, what are the chances that I get any more than 15 minutes again next year?
Right. Especially you're seeing all of these, things come across your timeline with interest from Auburn and point guards that are in the portal right now. And so, like, if Aiden's coming back and I'm coming back and they're going to get a transfer point guard, where are my minutes going to go in that scenario? Because, you're not moving Tre off the ball. So are you going to move Aiden off the ball and he's going to compete? Like, there's a lot of things to consider in this scenario. And, listen, he bet on himself to say, hey, maybe there's an opportunity that exists out there that's better for me to be able to make sure that I'm going to get the playing time I want to progress me to the next level. I'm not upset at the decision, but I was definitely floored by it. I didn't see it coming.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was tough. Yeah, and I wish him well wherever he lands. I think there's still a window for him to pull his name out of the portal and decide. Back. Yeah, right. He could. I'm not anticipating that, but hopefully he had a really good conversation with Coach Pearl and Coach Stephen Pearl and those guys about this decision and why he's making it. And those guys are on the same. If they're on the same page about this, I trust Bruce Pearl to go out and find a good replacement for him.
Yeah.
And, because think about how many people made fun of the pickups of Denver Jones, Baker Mazzara, and Chaney Johnson.
Yeah.
All those guys were great this year. And Chaney, he had to work his way in, but an injury to Jalen Williams gave him an opportunity to go in and show what he could do. He had a crazy chase down block in that Yale game, and he was scoring. He can score a dunk, and he can hit the three from time to time. And Baker Mazzara, obviously, we know what kind of player he was because without him, almost everybody universally says coaches alike. You very rarely hear them say that, but the coaches have come out and said if we have Chad Baker Mazzara in that game, we win the game by 10 points.
Yeah.
So they're good at going out and getting impact players and evaluating guys. Remember Janai Broome, what do you call it? Morehead State?
Mm-hmm.
Practically a star. Not practically, absolutely a star this year. I don't know. You got to be able to trust Bruce Pearl to go out and get guys who can get the job done. It just
consistently
comes down.
Having Auburn in the conversation after. Listen, with all of the stuff that people want to say about. Let me say this again clearly, because I'm not going to pull any chats up that are talking about this. I'm not having a conversation about whether or not Coach Bruce Pearl is one of the best coaches in college basketball, not just better than Nate Oates. Screw Nate Oates, right? Like, not just because he's Bama's coach, a large portion of it because he's Bama's coach, but for other reasons, I don't think Nate Oates is all that great. He's okay. He's good. Let me not just act like Nate Oates isn't a good basketball coach. He's good, but no. So I'm not entertaining a conversation about Coach Bruce Pearl. Like, if you want to have that particular conversation, then you're talking to the air in terms of that's just silliness. He has consistently put Auburn in position to be in the conversation for SEC championships year after year. He's consistently put Auburn into the postseason, into the tournament. Now, the tournament performances haven't been good, absent of the Final Four. But let's not pretend as if Coach Bruce Pearl is a bad coach. Like, I don't know. Again, I'm not spending more time on this than necessary. So no, that's a silly comment. Let's just move on from that. But Tre Donaldson, listen, wish him the best. I wish he was still at Auburn. He was one of my favorite players on the team last season. I love the tenacity that he brings. I love the grit. You can tell, and Coach Bruce Pearl has said it himself, he is hard on his point guards, right? Like, he is going to push you, and he's going to try to get them, because you are going to be responsible for the outcomes that happen. And to be clear, in the games where Auburn struggled, the point guard struggled. Every game in which Auburn lost this season, you can look at point guard play and say it wasn't very good this game. There's not a game that Auburn lost and the point guards played well. So, you've got to have good point guard play, especially in the tournament. The games that Auburn won against tough teams, you had good point guard play. It's just there's a direct correlation. So there's a reason why the point guard, why the quarterback gets all the attention, all the blame, all of the hype, all the whatever in all of these scenarios, because they're the ones that facilitate all of this stuff happening. And so you kind of have to be able to take the good with the bad when it comes to that level of notoriety for who you are to this team. Anyway, let's get over here to the comment section. Lots of great comments out here. Erica Radney jumps in and says, so was our loss coaching, talent, or a combo? Speaking of the loss to Yale. Oh, do you want to take this first or do you want me to go?
No, I'll put you on the spot here.
All right. I cannot think of a coaching decision that I blame for the loss to Yale.
Okay.
Pulakidis made some ridiculous shots down the stretch.
He did.
Auburn had plenty of opportunities for easy buckets to be able to at least get this to overtime, win the game if you make your free throws. That coaching, I don't think I put that on Coach Bruce Pearl. For those of you who have the thought process that Coach Pearl allowed, and I use air quotes for a reason, Chad Baker-Mazara to continue to be this antagonistic player all season, and it just finally came back to bite him at the end, I have to go back and say he shouldn't have been kicked out of the game for what he did. Yes, flagrant, 100%. Should he have been kicked out of the game? No. It's ridiculous. So if Chad has been doing what he's been doing all year and never been kicked out of the game, is that Coach Pearl's fault? Or is that a difference in officiating? Now, should Chad have done it? No. But you blame Chad for that. All Coach Pearl can do is say, hey, man, we got to stop doing this stuff. And if he continues to do it, what are you going to do? You're going to bench him? So do you want Coach Pearl to not play Chad because that's the style of player that he is?
Yeah.
I had this conversation with somebody before. We can go down the list of guys in basketball history who have all played like this and have been star players and have made a living being antagonists and doing extracurricular stuff. The Dennis Rodmans of the world, the Draymond Green right now. None of those coaches bench those guys. They're just, you live with the outcome because you know they make you better even with all of the craziness. Now, Draymond Green, I think, has gone a little bit too far now where it's like, hey, bro, you're actually hurting the team now consistently. You might want to chill out. But that's kind of what you get with that guy. And so, no, I don't think that Coach Pearl should have coached him differently. Chad understands what he did, and he understands how he hurt the team. That was a piss-poor officiating decision in that moment that led to that.
I have a little bit of a different perspective. I'm going to play devil's advocate here for a second.
Go for it.
The only thing I can point to, and we don't know that this didn't happen, and so I want to add that caveat. I'm just saying the only thing I can point to that maybe Bruce Pearl needs to do in that moment is, and this, to me, this is elite advanced coaching, right? Like this is seeing into the future and saying, you know what, let me just go ahead and address this now before it happens. If you know you have a player who maybe has a propensity to get into some scuffles on the court, you grab him beforehand, before the game starts, and say, listen, they're going to antagonize you. They're going to.
Do you know that he didn't do that though?
Yeah. Well, I led with that. Like we don't know that he didn't do that, right? But like if there were a thing that he could do, what I'm saying is that would have been it, right? To preemptively put it in Chad's mind that they're going to try to bait you. You can't fall for it. We need you. We need Chad Baker on the court. The refs may be gunning for you. You can't fall for it. Now, we saw what happened. He got throat checked on the play before. And if the ref makes that call, the next play never happens.
100%.
The next play never happens. So, yeah, I mean, listen, it's a flagrant one. Like, it wasn't a basketball play. It wasn't like, it wasn't attempted murder. It was an elbow. It was an elbow. We saw a Tennessee dude grab a guy and like suplex him. Ike, come on, man. that's a flagrant too. Again, I don't know that another one was called the rest of the tournament, and they 100% got reamed out by their boss for that.
Yeah,
because it became the story. You became the story of the game because you could not exercise some restraint and say, you know what? Part of my French, but Chad, cut the shit.
Yeah.
One more time, you're gone. Flagrant one.
Correct. That's what should have happened.
That's what should have happened. That's what should have happened, right? I think that would have been good officiating. What happened wasn't good officiating. But if you're Bruce Pearl, again, as a top, 10 paid coach in college basketball or whatever, you got to be able to find a plan to adjust and make it happen. And it just didn't happen. So, like I said, it's not all on that. It's not all on Bruce. Like I said, there were players in opportunity. Like, how do you coach Aiden Holloway blowing like 2 or 3 layups and not scoring a single point?
Yeah. You put him in position to go out there and score, and he just didn't do it, right?
Yeah, no buckets.
Free throws at the end of the game. You got guys to the free throw line by saying, hey, we're going to drive this. They're calling fouls. Go drive.
What,
get
2
the free
of 7
throws
on free throws down the stretch?
That's not coaching.
That's not coaching, man. Like, I mean, guys
blown
just
layup
plays.
at the end. That's not coaching, right? So I think, listen, I get it. It's easy to put the blame on the coaches in that scenario, and that's tough. That's a tough one to take, especially again when you've been handicapped by the officials in some other ways. I'm not blaming the officials for the game. Auburn still had their opportunities to win, but I'd be hard pressed to put that on coaching in that one.
Yeah.
Anyway, enough of that conversation. We could go on and on about this. Let's get out of here. Mike G, tell the people one more time what they need to be doing with their pennies.
You guys know, become a patron. It's great for us. It's great for you. It's great for us. We love when you do this. So please just do it. Become a patron. $5.99 a month will get you there. Help keep the work that we're doing here. You can also give the gift of the War Report by hitting that gifted membership button. So Auburn Dad did that again. He does this about every live cast now. So we appreciate him for doing that. Check us out on podcast, guys. Every podcast network, the Auburn Express, Uptempo, College Loop, and Just a Sec. We're bringing you guys lots of great content there. Want to thank show sponsor Manscaped again for sponsoring the War Report. Guys, Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra is being introduced this season. Features dual LED spotlights to get you in the dark. And it comes in a compact case that lets you take it everywhere. So if you want to do a man grooming on the road, Manscaped has got you covered. Visit manscaped.com. Use code REPORT to get 20% off plus free shipping. Also, again, want to thank show sponsor, The Rage Room. Check them out in Opelika or Birmingham. Downtown Opelika at 1510 2nd Avenue and in Birmingham at 2616 7th Avenue South. They've got a great business model there. They're big supporters of the War Report. If you want to go do something, if you want to have a uniquely good time and you've never done this, you go to the Rage Room. Look, it's like vases and like tube TVs and windshields and anything you could think of to break. We did a mix segment there, and Mike O'Reilly and I actually busted up quite a bit of stuff. He was excited. I don't know why he was so excited, but he was excited to break stuff at the Rage Room. So the Rage Room, Opelika in Birmingham, Micah O'Reilly approved.
Absolutely. All right, man. Well, we are going to get out of here. Before we do, we want you all to do all of the things that we ask you to do. Share the video out there. Make sure you're adding us on the War Report so that we know that you did it. Make sure that you like the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Follow us on social media at the War Report on X and IG. TW Report on TikTok. We are out of here until the next time. And as always, War Eagle.
War Eagle.